Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another video, and in this video we'll be diving into Skull. What is Skull? Skull is a static site generator that I built or I'm trying to build. And this Skull is actually written in Node. So Skull is a static site generator, much like Jackal, or you can kind of compare it with a content module of Next.js or a similar module that converts markdown into static site in React, but it's not really using any fancy framework. So let's talk about what it is. So I will give you a quick introduction and show you how it works. So what I will do here, I will run live server and it's running, and I will go to the build directory. Awesome. So you can see I have a bunch of articles in my article directory, which is where I will be keeping all of my articles. And this application, or I would say this small project or framework or library, which is called Skull, I will be using it to create my blog in the future. So this is just a log of showing the development of Skull so far. So here I'm going to type node and run the file called index.js. I could actually do npm run or yarn. Let me see the command. Oh, sorry. If I go to the package.json, it's render. So I could do yarn render, and it should render all of the markdown files into the build directory. And you can see it automatically detected it, and you can see you will get this. Okay, so this is actually a site that is actually indexed by the articles. So for example, if I create a new article here, and let's call it, so we're going to call it let's call it flex tesa node.md, and I will be copying some of the code from here and paste it here, and I will change the title. For example, setup flex tesa for Tezos development. Okay, and in this here, so we'll say here okay, and I can change the date. For example, let's call this 4 and 5, and we can change this to Tezos and, for example, blockchain. And let's make all the other things to be same. Now what will happen when I'm going to run this command again, it will render this article as well, and after that you will see another article which is set of flex tesa for Tezos development. So what it does, it basically takes all of the articles and convert it into a static file. So if I go to the build directory, you will see all of the rendered file that are being there. So what are we using to build it? So we are using markdown-it for parsing markdown, and a bunch of plugins from markdown-it package, so that I will be talking about in a bit. And we are using EJS for template rendering, and we're using Node.js for everything else. So now you can see this was our article, set of flex tesa for Tezos development. When I click on add, it will take me to another page which actually contains the rendered content of this article. So you can see connecting to remote and all, whatever was there, you can see here. And here are the tags, so you can see Tezos and blockchain. So how it works, let's talk about it. So the main file here is index.js, and I will be going over just the basics. So we have a file called file system API, which contains some utility functions to handle file system, and then I'm using EJS, path module, and file system module, and we are here rendering all of the articles that are there in the articles directory. And then you can see we are converting it into an HTML file and with rendering. So how this rendering works, so you can see if I go to the app directory, you will find that I have two files, which is index.js and base.js. Let's talk about base.js. Base.js is actually a file responsible for rendering the articles. You can see we have a bunch of styles here and simple HTML content, and Over here you can see we have this container which contains the content. So content is actually the markdown content that gets rendered, and then you have another content to render the tags. So the way tags works is we have an h3 which is here heading, and then we are rendering all of the tags. Now you might think, why I'm making a static sign generator from scratch when I can just use something like Hugo or Jekyll? So now the answer to that question would be a bit strange, and the answer is like, I want to do it by myself because I like to create my own version of things. So whether it's a website or maybe a static site generator or anything else for that matter, I like to have my own version of it, and that's why I'm doing it. And in the past I have tried Jekyll, I have tried Nuxt.js to create my blog. If you are following my channel, you might know about it. So what I end up realizing is they are actually really complicated. Not really complicated while when you want to write something. They are actually complicated as a framework, right? And we don't need that much fancy stuff, right, in order to create a simple blog or a static site generator. So what I've decided is to build one from scratch, and it will be a great learning experience for me. So this is how it works. I can go to any article I want. For example, let's see this, and you can see all of the content. Now the cool thing is, this page doesn't have any styling, any CSS. Some CSS is actually applied just for the background and all, but you can see this thing, the code is actually getting rendered because of because of a markdown-it plugin that I will be talking about in a moment. Apart from that, we are not using any CSS. Why? Because we don't need it. It looks so cool, so nice, right out of the box, right? We don't have to worry about anything else. That's why I'm not using it. So let's talk about what needs to be done, and what will be the future features in Skull. Let's talk about that. So if I go to the repository, which is vivekascoder/skull, and my internet is really terrible, so it will take up a while. All right, it's loaded. So I go to the issues. I have just wrote every single thing in an issue. So I just raised the issue corresponding to a specific feature, and these are the features that will be there in the future. So first of all, adding support for about page. So you will have something like, you can put create an about page, and that will get rendered, and it will be rendered in a separate page, which will be just like about me, a section in the website. Then you have support for pagination. It is a feature when you have a lot of articles, and currently I'm just rendering all of them in just a page called index.html. So this template gets rendered for the article, but as the number of article grows, we want to be able to have multiple pages, and that's where the pagination feature comes in. Then we want to be able to add certain URLs in the skull-config.js, which is like the main config file for the Skull. What should I call it? Is it a library or a framework? Let me know. So you can see this is just the config which you can specify, and in the future you can also specify your Twitter username, Instagram username, and a corresponding thing will be rendered on the website, so users can directly get the information about your social accounts from the website. And then following a cool directory structure. So this directory structure is actually inspired by Jekyll, and I feel like most of the static site generator do the same thing. So you can see in the article, you will have the name of the folder, which is going to be the name of the article. Then you will have index.html. So you can directly go to article/first in order to render the index.html file. So you can see I have mentioned why we need it. The other thing is setting up CI/CD pipeline out of the box using Github Actions and the SSH plugin. Then creating nginxconf and the Docker file for deployment, and allowing users to watch files for live editing. So basically, when you are writing something, users will have a feature for, like, they can do something like yarn watch, and then it will start watching for file changes, and whenever something gets changed, it will re-render the content and show you in the website. Then we have command line parser for providing options from the command line so that it will be much easier for the users to customize it the way they want. And we are also going to introduce tags, so each tag will have their own page which will get rendered. So this is what the current progress of the skull looks like. So skull is a static site generator built from scratch. Let's talk about what are we using for markdown-it. So if you go to this file called parse markdown, by the way, all code is open source, you can look into it by going to this repository. So we are using markdown-it Prism. So if you're not familiar with Prism.js, it's a library that allows you to syntax highlight certain pieces of code. And then I'm using markdown-it front matter. So if you're not familiar with what front matter is, so whenever you have a markdown file, you can write the YAML content on top of it by doing these dashes, and this is what the front matter is. So this context or this information here just represent the information about the article, and it does not get rendered while rendering the whole page. So this plugin helps me with that. And then I'm using YAML for parsing the front matter and doing actions based on that. So this is how it is done. So yeah, this is the first log of skull, and in the future you will see more features coming inside the skull. And I will also going to make my own blog using skull, and if you want to contribute, you can just look into the website, pick the issue and start working on it. And yeah, I'll see you next time.